Good evening. I welcome you all to the 16th edition of MAD. The topic that we're discussing today is that should brands rethink their media vehicles in the wake of the toxicity debate? This topic has been on all our minds and not just in India but all over the world. People have been pondering about the content and its carrier and also its relevance across digital and non digital media. So, without further ado, let's delve into the topic and see what we have in store.
Lloyd, start off.
Okay, great. Thanks, Giraj. I think this is a contentious issue. I just want to kick it off with a few thoughts I have. I think, the debates kind of, come to the fore in a manner of speaking in the last fortnight, a little bit after this so-called TRP scam broke. And everyone in this forum obviously knows the background to it. I think the background, the key element within that is to recognize that for a lot of the news channel medium, which has been the center of the scam, advertising revenues are a critical part of their viability. I'm just looking at, whatever data was in published sources. If you look at the top 20 news channels, television news channels, almost 55% of their revenue is out of advertising and less so out of subscriptions. So the underlying theme is that advertisers can play a critical role if they have to get the channels to let's say get out of this so-called toxicity. Having said which, I think there are two or three key parts, and I want to state the cons of advertisers playing or doing what I call advertiser activism. I think the first point really is that in a true democracy, it's not for corporates and business people to tell news folks how and what to report. Right? To my mind, that's a fundamental contradiction in the democratic process. Right? It's a short step between a Bajaj pulling out of advertising from Republic and the classic old-fashioned lobbying. Right? I'll give you some money. So that's not very different from the more worthy newspapers that do a media net, saying here's some money and run a good story about my startup, so the investors will start boosting the value. There are two sides of the same coin. So at one level, like I said, it's a little dangerous when advertisers start dictating that whole aspect. So this advertiser activism about telling corporations how and what, to strong arm channels, so to speak. The second point I think is with increasing polarization. I think people or the activists are going to expect more, right? What today is holding back or pulling out advertising to so-called discipline a few channels that seem to be, let's say going overtly sensational or getting more toxic. Tomorrow could become a matter of life. One would expect advertisers to start taking issues of everything, right? And a lot of us who've been on the client side recognize that it's nice to do a Save the Tiger, it's nice to do gender empowerment, but tomorrow when it comes to slightly more tricky issues on communalism and such like, I think a lot of advertisers will think twice, right? At one level, you have to recognize that most brand custodians and advertisers are also, in a sense, custodians of shareholders' money. Their fundamental objective is to ensure good return. If they start taking stands basis public pressure or basis their own moral compass, and tomorrow there are boycotts for their products, then the investors are going to hold them responsible. So there is a little bit of that investor versus activist level, and I think that's some part that needs to be understood as well. So I think those are kind of two critical, cons to the whole process. The other point is if advertisers feel strongly enough about the way things are going, I think the one way they can do is use their budgets and monies to make communication that seems to advocate a good behavior, right? So that could be one part, which means whether it's your CSR budget or your mainstream marketing budget, talking about the benefits of staying, sane, staying noble, staying objective, as opposed to playing this rabble rouser, right? So you can do it directly without kind of using your whip to kind of control things, which in a sense is one aspect of what I would call lobbying. So I think that's one of the key parts. One saw a little bit of it 3 months ago when a whole bunch of about 800 advertisers in the US boycotted Facebook because Facebook refused to kind of stop hate speech on the whole Black Lives Matter. So there has been a precedent. And in a sense, there's no backlash to those advertisers as we understand, because largely most of America was kind of behind the Black Lives Matter movement. So there wasn't really an anti-thing. In India, it cannot be said the same way. For every one of them who believes that there are a couple of channels that are very toxic, there are equal number of people who believe that, that really is not toxicity. That's really kind of getting back into years of status quo. So there is a kind of larger polarization. On the pros of activism, I would say one thing is that corporations cannot any longer kind of play an ostrich and stick their neck into the mud, so to speak. Right? There's a new generation of consumers, millennials, young consumers who expect that if I'm going to put money behind a brand, I want that brand to stand up for some values I believe. Right? So looking away and staying neutral may not necessarily be the way forward. Sooner than later, I think it will be demanded of brands to stand up and be counted and say the right thing. And in the context, the larger debate around purpose, I think brands may need to take stands. The downfall, though, is that when you take a stand, you're bound to cheese off some. But the general consensus, and if I were to kind of have to put my money on one side, I would recognize that corporations and brands will increasingly start needing to take a stand, because doing the right thing is what matters in the long run. In the short run, you're going to get impacted. People are going to get boycott Bajaj bikes and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at the larger community where you exist and you believe, you're going to leave the community slightly better off, I think, brands may start having to stand up. But it's deeply contentious. There are issues on either side, and, this can be a raging debate. But I just thought I'll throw it open with a few opening remarks, and, happy to be listed.
Fair. So I think we now go over to LK. LK, what is your take? So, Lloyd is trying to balance it, giving us a perspective from both sides. One place he says that it is against the democratic norms, and the second place he said to balance it, he said that if the brands they do not take a stance, then there would be a disconnect, especially with the younger audience. LK, your take. You got to unmute, LK.
Sorry about that. So I'm going to take the more fundamental view of arising from the word brand, right? When we talk about the brand and the reason for the brand's existence, like Lloyd mentioned, one side is to give returns to investors, and the other is to serve the community where it hopes to do business. But the brand is nothing but something that is caters to its constituency, which is the consumer, right? The primary objective for me, for the brand, is to do its own business. And mind you, I'm not saying mind its own business, I'm saying do its own business. And when we talk about toxicity in news debate, and specifically I think we are talking about news, but if we make it just larger, we can always say, quality of content, right? There's ample amount of terrible content which is going out all over the place, not just on television. And news happens to be one of them, which becomes highly contentious because it is about the political climate and the socio-cultural fabric that we are talking about. But who are we to decide, as people who manage brands, who are we to decide what is toxic and what is not toxic? We are here to serve the people who are going to be buying our services and products. If that population, let's say more than half the population as of today, veers towards one side, and they are quite happy watching that, and they agree with it, and they kind of endorse and support the news coverage, etc., then we are not going to be telling those consumers that, hey, listen, I think this is toxic stuff, so I'm not going to be talking to you through these news channels. I don't think it is up to us as brand managers to decide for my consumer which platform am I going to appeal to them on, to communicate with them on. Rather, I would rather do my own business with regard to communicating with consumers, and make sure that if I find that there is objectionable content, then that should be found objectionable first and foremost by my constituency. Now, take the example of YouTube. A few years ago, a whole range of marketers, let's say companies like Unilever, Johnson, etc., they started withdrawing money from YouTube because they said, and it was true, that YouTube was not doing enough to check pedophilia content. And they said, my brand cannot be advertising right next to or on platforms that are not doing anything about pedophilia. Right? And they were right. And no consumer would actually get up and say, hey, listen, but that's a matter of debate. Is that pedophilia or is it not pedophilia? So that is not the situation when we talk about the political discourse that is happening, or the religious political discourse that is happening, because not everybody is saying that this is bad debate. or they're not saying that this is not the way it should be done. So you cannot equate toxicity with something that maybe half the population feels is toxic and the other half says it's fine. Okay, so in this sense, I would say that brands would be best served, in my opinion, to just do their own business, okay, and steer away from controversy themselves, because that is not the reason they exist. They are not here to improve the country, at least not in this manner, not in the religio-political manner. They are here to improve the community in their own way, in the way they do business, in the products and services that they give you. They're not here to change community in that sense. So that's my point of view.
Fair. I think I'll go to Johan. Johan, what is your take? Because I think you mentioned in one of our previous MAT discussions, you talked about brand activism and how millennials, they want their brands to take stances. So in context to what LK just said, what is your take, Johan?
I think, I love the fact that we're taking a balanced perspective, because we can also be very easily, go towards the activist part because it's what we see, right? So having said that, I do agree that I think that we must take a balanced perspective. The one thing that I will say is happening, I mean, I remember around the time when Republic was doing its coverage on RIA, I remember just the general sense of at least a good chunk of young population calling its bluff out on Republic. And I just wonder at what that has as these guys become more mature consumers and buyers, what repercussion that has towards Republic's advertising. Because I remember at that time, you had these camps of people based on where they were going. So, and while there is a balanced perspective, I'm curious about how some of these consumers, as they're becoming more aware, as they're becoming more political, and as they start to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to what they believe in, I wonder how that affects the ads they see. That's the only place I would say that I'm curious to see how that plays out in the next couple of years. Having said that, I also would say that a balanced perspective in this particular case is more important. I think the example of YouTube and the kind of restriction on pedophilic content is good, because it's very different in this case. That's the only thing I would say. Also because, like I said, Republic, when it went through that entire phase, I don't think anyone, at least a lot of the people who are conscious, I would say, they saw through it. And so what happened in the middle, I mean, it's interesting. There was one particular incident where they were recreating some of the text messages. They were a big form of ridicule in a lot of the younger community and a lot of the young content out there. And I follow some of them just to understand what's happening. There's a lot of ridicule. So not as much just I'm upset, but also I can't believe how stupid this is, if I may be very frank. So what happens in that environment is I wonder if that narrative starts getting formed about, some media houses, how that affects buying decisions from brands that are extremely closely tied into those media houses. I don't know if we're there yet. I don't know if they were able to make that association right away, but I'm wondering how that plays out. Should we continue operating this way? Or at least what that would look like over the next 2 years, because for sure this is not going to be the first incident where we have situations like that in these media houses. So I'm just curious to see how this plays out over the next distant or at least near future.
Fair. Madhun sir, your take. You heard LK.
Yeah.
You heard Lloyd. What's your take? And
Actually, I have a lot to say on this subject. I feel like Fidel Castro, who used to make night-long speeches. But unfortunately, you are not the Communist Party, and I'm not Fidel Castro. But I have virtually made a presentation or a keynote speech, which I'd be happy to give anywhere. But I just made some, what I think are very useful bullets. Let me begin reading them out, almost like I'm making a PowerPoint or something. First of all, why do you call news channels as, because since we are talking Republic at the center of all this, I want you to basically rethink everything, because this is not just about Republic. This is about the digital culture global. Digital, global, culture. All 3 words are very, very important. I'll explain how as we go forward, because the important thing to remember is that everything has been disrupted so much that you have to look at it from the point of view of disruption and not merely the old-fashioned things like, are we here in the business to help our shareholders or not? the world has changed dramatically, and I'm going to explain how. First thing is, I want to say, let me quote my uh, Twitter follower and somebody who the world knows, Tom Peters, who said, "You're living in epochal times. If you're not confused, you're not in touch." This is a quote I increasingly use. He used this in the 80s, but now it is more relevant than ever before because there has been not a single but multiple technological disruptions. And I am a strong believer in the fact that technology disrupts economy and culture, and therefore everything that has to do with brands. Okay. Now, let me begin by saying news channels, really? Do you call them news channels anymore? Why do we use the word news channels? Because Republic is not a news channel. It no longer gives you the news. It gives you something that is trying to determine what others will perceive as news. I wrote a long article in the Quint last week on this. If you Google, you'll find Madhavan Narayanan. And therefore, the very idea of genre dynamics have to be revisited because you should not go by what has historically been known as news unless you know you just want to go with the flow and make do with whatever is out there, and as a logical corollary, let me say TRP itself is an outdated concept. It's a bit like asking what is your typing speed, which was a very when I was in college, when I was joining the Times of India, it was part of my contract to learn typewriting because reporters were supposed to know shorthand and typewriting. I had done some typewriting, it helped. It did help me transition, but no one talks of typewriting anymore. So TRP is, in a sense, the typewriting of the today's age. The quality of attention is the quantity of attention is not everything. Quality of attention is, which was already known to lifestyle brands when they used to advertise in magazines in the 80s or 70s, where you knew that who read you and in what kind of an outlet was as important, if not more, than the simple how many read you and what are the points. So don't reduce it to a number game. Now, third, let me hypothesize a new concept called brand citizen. Everybody talks of corporate citizens. Why don't we coin the term called brand citizen? Every brand also has a citizenship value, and that is getting, let me say, hyper. It's on steroids now for reasons I will explain. There can be brand citizens where the brands themselves behave like citizens by having a personality, which most of you as brand consultants and experts know. But now it is under some compulsion to become citizen brands as opposed to simply brand citizens. So a brand, Louis Vuitton, might be associated with classiness, luxury goods, as well as traditional artisanship. But the ethics of being a citizen is increasingly becoming part of something. So every brand citizen is living under a compulsion to become a citizen brand. We saw an early example when Tata Tea came up with the Jagore brand to associate waking up with a cup of tea with the election voting and all. So there's always some social value in brands, which also lowers your cost of branding because your virality and your participation of the community increases, which reduces your media spending costs. So that's very important anyway, even from the humble economic point of view of we are here for the shareholders. Okay. Now, let me tell you, there's something else which I've called the watering hole syndrome. If you go to a jungle, you'll find the lion, the monkey, the birds, and the deer. Everybody has to come to the watering hole, which is why the lion goes to the watering hole to get the deer, and the hunter goes to the watering hole to kill the leopard or the lion. Now, social media is the new watering hole. Of course, I said on the other day, which I think Giraj shared on this thing, I spoke in a television panel on the Tanishq brand controversy, and I said the trolls are on Twitter, but the consumers are on Instagram, which might apply to a significant extent in the current atmosphere. But I have a feeling that is becoming less so because at some point, as we all know, brands come back to bite you in some way, meaning if you have done something wrong, it comes to bite you, but particularly in an age where the barriers have come down and time margins have come down. So you cannot play different stakeholders separately because they are talking to each other in an age of peer-to-peer communication. So let me give you the example that NGOs, activists, investors, consumers are all on social media, and I also believe that, in fact, as a journalist, I know there is something called a consumer citizen dichotomy. There's a consumer inside the citizen, and there's a citizen inside the consumer, and there's only up to a point you can segregate them. At some point, you have to see them as a unified whole. Everybody has a heart, so you have to keep that heart in mind. But the heart need not be, at some point, you have to take a stand and not merely empathize with the consumer, but also, instead of being led by the consumer, you have to lead the consumer. This is a brand attribute that I would think, from the purposes of what I next come to, which I call brand longevity. If you want to see your brand as a long-term brand, then it's just like leadership. You will not do certain things because just to please somebody. Just as any CEO knows that there is a multiple stakeholder approach. You have employees, you have at some point, as Zomato and Indigo have shown, you have to stand up for your employees, and the customer is not always right because the employee is also a stakeholder. So keep that in mind, that in a multiple stakeholder society, as opposed to just a company ecosystem, then the long-term implications of the brand has to be kept in mind. Now, let me mention one very interesting point. It's not just about journalists and advertisers anymore. It's also about historians. Just like Black Lives Matter, let me say historians matter. One of the favorite sayings is by Maya Angelou, which says, "People may forget you may forget what people said to you, but you will not forget what the way they made you feel." A lot of it is branding is about making them feel the feeling, the abstract feeling. So you don't want to suddenly be subjected to some nasty historical episode someday. Let me give you an example. Recently, there have been, after this anti-racist protest, some of the biggest brands in the world, such as the Yale University and the Rhodes Scholarship, have been affected by charges of racism. Okay? And therefore, you don't want that can of worms opened someday and say that you were not on the right side of history when this happened. It does come at a cost, but some people have successfully borne that cost. Let me give you an example. There's a wonderful Wikipedia page I discovered just now called List of Brands That Supported Nazis. Okay? And because IBM and BASF were among them, and Henkel and all, I mean, there's a whole lot of brands that actually played by the rules that you gentlemen have been speaking about. We are here to serve shareholders. But right now, you have a Wikipedia page that says IBM was part of, help the Nazi economy and all. So if you could be neutral, as in saying my business is business and not citizen, you may want to think twice about that. So, and back to TRP again, as I said, like the typewriting speed, it's an outdated concept. We are living in the age of artificial intelligence and natural monitoring. The YouTube kind of software is so good that the television TRP sounds like some kind of a Stone Age concept to me. We can think about that. That is not intrinsic to this brand ethics thing, but it does link up. So go back and tell your clients that don't go by the thumb rules of TRPs anymore. There is a complex association in which elements of empathy and history also matter. I hope I have contributed.
No, wonderful. Wonderful. I'd like to go to Sandeep in Cal. Sandeep Saab, what do you have to say to this? You heard 4 viewpoints. You heard Lloyd, who gave a balanced thing. You heard what LK had to say. You heard what Johan had to say on how activism is important. People are watching you, and especially the younger audience. And you heard what Madhavan Saab has to say. Your take, Sandeep Saab.
See, I also spent gave this matter quite a bit of thought and also a little bit about it, but that's not what I want to go in. But since the time it started, I think my thinking has evolved, and even in the course of the last half an hour or so, when we have been hearing everybody, even then my thinking. I think the point where, first of all, I would agree with LK is not about brand's business is its own business, or it's in a business of its own. First of all, it's all about content. And when we are talking about content, which is objectionable content and which is so-called toxic content, we have to differentiate. Like I think LK put it very well about pedophilic content on YouTube. That's where you have a very, very clear no-go area, because that is, you know, ethically or whichever way you look at it, it is wrong. But if the content is not the content I like, and therefore I say that is toxic, and vice versa, it is a matter of view. And because I don't like, today's in a polarized world, I can be calling it by any name. I can call it toxic. I can call it any name. It does not become toxic. In fact, in this entire debate, since Republic has been brought in so many times, Republic should be more worried about its own brand, where it is trying to, if they're putting out a certain content in a certain format or in the shape of a certain anchor style, etc., I think they should be much more worried that 6 months down the line or 1 year down the line, what will happen to their readership or no. Because conversely, I don't know whether it makes sense, if really people, advertisers were simply going by a value judgment, then I don't want to take names of certain channels, then all these people would have been putting Rajiv Bajaj would have taken out money from Republic. I don't know whether he was actually advertising there, and going and putting in channel NRI, which is more attuned to us. But I don't think even if you give him the choice, he's going to put all his dollars from here to there just because that particular channel or that particular media vehicle is more tuned to his kind of thinking. So even there, he is making a very, very rational judgment as a businessman. Okay, so the point even today, what somebody, I will just sort of shift a little bit. Forget advertising. I may not like a particular newspaper or even a particular channel a lot. But today, if I have to get a soundbite or editorial in for my boss or for my organization, I become very agnostic. Then I go in Calcutta, I don't like what I'm taking a name here. I don't like how the Telegraph editorial has gone today, or the kind of editorial pages it's carrying. But if I have to get a news out in Telegraph in Calcutta, I ring up the Telegraph editorial business page editor and say, hey, can I give you the story and will you carry it? Because that gives me the impact. I can't make a judgment there to say that, no, I won't go to Telegraph because I don't agree with their editorial stunt. There one has to take a view that, yes, they're taking an anti-government view, they're taking maybe an extremely anti-government view, they are very left-oriented, but that's their view against mine. Republic, when I was actually working before the elections, I stuck my neck out and I invested on Republic because in a purely agnostic, channel agnostic this thing. And similarly, people had told me about other channels. I said, let them justify the numbers, I'll do it. Today, if I don't advertise in Republic, it is not due to a value judgment. It is going to be purely in terms of, does it suit my brand's, the ambience where I'm trying to put it in, the context where I'm trying to put it in, does it suit my brand or not? If there is no problem with that, the ambience, I'm not going to worry too much about whether Arnav is ranting against A, B, C, D, because we also know for a fact that people who may be sending out messages on social media, they may be coming from a particular mindset, but there are also a whole lot of people who actually believed what Arnav was saying or doing and still would like to have, for whatever reason, the Riya Chakravarti case turn out in a particular way. But that's their choice. And the problem is, I totally agree with Madhavan, none of these channels are to the news channels. That is what I also wrote in an article. So you don't look at them as news channels or anything, just as a media vehicle through which you are getting stuff in. But the point about whether it's a Nazi situation or whether it is a pedophilic situation, those are different value judgments which people are making. Levers have stopped advertising Fair and Lovely, and now they have Glow and Lovely. What has changed? I think a lot of people are, activists and people just like to, feel good that we have made them change, but nothing has changed. They're still going and selling to the same people, maybe in the same manner. But it's not really changed because they're, it's a very, very subtle matter. But if they were selling something immoral over there, then you have a different question. So I think it has to be judged from that angle. I would be, to close, I would repeat, if I were Arnab, I used to know him well, and I still do, I would be much more worried as a friend, as an advisor, what is he doing to his own channel? What kind of viewership, etc., he's going to have till later, rather than advertisers per se.
Thanks, Sandeep. I would go to, the temptation is to immediately go to Saurabh because he represents NDTV. But Saurabh, before I come to you, we have another debutant here, which is Naresh. I would like to go to Naresh and figure out his point of view. And Naresh, I also came across a study that shows that, while low involvement persons perceived ads embedded in congruent context as clearer and more likable, there is also in the same study that, it's pointed out that high involvement persons, they perceived ads embedded in a contrasting context as highly likable. And, so that's something very crazy, which means that the study is pointed out that it's not been done in India, that if you were, standing for a value system which was in contrast to the basic, the channel or the media vehicle, high involvement people will find you likable and would see clarity, and will see your message with a lot of clarity. So that's another input. Now, Naresh, over to you.
This is actually, if you look at it, brands always are careful about where to advertise. And before you kill me, if you're a mature brand, your brand tracks will actually study the impact of advertising on the consumer and what kind of perception you are creating. You would also measure variety of factors, including where did you see the ad and what impression that ad created. Now, suppose I put out an ad and it does not create the kind of impression that I'm creating, then there is a conversation that brands tend to have on where was it advertised. It's not about boycotting one channel over another. There is a whole call you take on saying, I need this kind of media, I don't need this kind of media. It always happens. It's a dynamic process that keeps happening. I do agree, Republic and a host of other news channels. I just need to make that disclaimer. I do handle one of the news channels that is fighting Republic every day. And so I'm in that battle almost real time every day. I know what is happening, what is not happening, but I'm not letting that come in here. Also, the kind of brands that go on to news channels. Now, that's an interesting study that you need to make. There are very different kind of brands that go on news channels, primarily because the audience that comes to news channels is also very, very different. You connect with news channels for a variety of different reasons, and you really don't connect with news channels for the reach it gives you or the frequency it gives you. Two monikers that run the entire media planning business. Because the number of people that news channels, especially English news channels, deliver to you is so small that in your overall media planning budget, it's not going to make a big difference. Tomorrow, if every brand pulls out every penny of advertising from English news channels, their reach won't drop, their frequency won't drop, their impact on consumers won't drop. So really, news channels don't make a large impact from a measurement perspective on viewers today. The other thing is, the entire youngsters bit, they have moved away from news on television. They really don't watch news on television. They watch a lot of small clips of the same news on their social media feed. And so a lot of impression that they form about what that channel is or what that channel is saying is on their social media feed. And that's independent of the brand that's being advertised there, because they're not really consuming the advertising that is happening at that point of time. I think going forward, as world moves forward, brands will become a lot more careful of where they advertise. It's not about, is this the channel where I should be or is this a channel where I should not be? It's a lot about, does this work for my brand or does this not work for my brand? Now, there are a number of brands for which what can be called as toxic will work. Now, there are a number of brands that exist on that margin, say a Pan Masala brand, for instance. We may debate whether the brand exists for the right reason or the wrong reason. But if you look at it from that perspective, any brand that measures the impact it is having also measures the impact it has on the society. And it's a moving dynamic. So people will take a call on whether I need to be there or not need to be there. But it's a spiral. The advertisers go where the audience is, the audience goes where the content is. Today, somehow, for whatever reason, this content seems to be working, but this will change. This will change very, very quickly. And which is where I will agree with the co-panelist who's saying that Arnab should be worried about what kind of image he's creating for his own brand. Today, this image works. Tomorrow, we don't know. But then who will remember what it was yesterday?
Fair. Over to you.
Okay, so so we've been at the forefront of this sort of dialogue around TRP.
Sort of.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So what I was saying is that we've been at the forefront of this, how skewed this whole TRP exercise can be. And, I would just like to quote from something that one of our former editors said, Anindya Chakraborty, and he's put out an entire thread on Twitter. But I'm just taking one tweet out of that. Just manipulating 4 out of 40,000 meter households can completely change the fortunes of an English news channel in
Yeah, we
India.
can hear you.
And that's something that perhaps is what we need to look at. Now, we as reporters, and I've been speaking to people that, why would you say watch? And I'm going by the data that's available, BARC data. And I constantly ask people, why would you watch a Republic, say, over an NDTV, the channel I represent? And the answer often is that, one of my friends told me, what, it's more entertaining than IPL. And this kind of shocks me because what am I supposed to do then? I'm supposed to be getting facts. My work may not be that entertaining. Should I be competing with an IPL for eyeballs? And if I am to do that, then what happens to the whole purpose of news? So this is something that we've been sort of crying hoarse about, that, TRPs can be manipulated. TRPs have been manipulated for ages. There's an entire case that, we've fought. All of that data is available. We've been saying and crying hoarse from the rooftops for years about this. But I think now we've reached a point where I think that everybody needs to align, I'm not asking you to align to a particular ideology, but align yourselves to a particular type of content. And when we say we won't sensationalize or we won't, sort of do the kind of screaming, shouting journalism, which has fallen within the definition of toxic, TV news. But at the same time, there are salaries to be paid, there are channels to be run, there are costs of running a TV channel. How do we make that cost? And the scenario is not going to change. It's going to come from advertiser-driven revenue. So in that context, I think that advertisers today have the biggest role in deciding what kind of content comes on TV. And while it's very welcoming to hear that you don't want to decide what the content should be, because that again goes directly against the principle of, advertisers interfering with content. At the same time, I think that time is now that somebody has to take responsibility for saying that even if this gets eyeballs, this is not the kind of content that we would like to be, perpetuating. Because at the end of the day, and, like somebody was referring to, that a brand that supported, Nazi Germany. My point is that tomorrow the same questions will be asked of you. And what do you do then?
Raj, may I just make one small point?
Yes, Lloyd.
So quickly, I think, sort of great comments and such like. I think just 2 points. I think one is to recognize that within any, we're talking about news channels, a medium, there'll be various levels of thought. For every one brand that thinks it's inappropriate to be with Republic because the editorial environment is toxic or a little too sensational for my kind of brand, there's another brand that thinks, hey, that's fine. It's kind of edgy masala content or whatever. And therefore, over time, I think channels will therefore get their own share of advertisers. There'll be a kind of moderate conservative advertiser who finds the editorial environment within NDTV very conducive. And there will be another one that finds the editorial environment of a Republic or Times Now, whatever, very conducive. So I think that's one reality. Having said that, just a couple of reactions, I think to the points Naresh and Sandeep made, I think we have to also recognize that today brands and companies have the heft to kind of influence consumer behavior and trends. And they can't look away from that fact, right? So as much as we are custodians of investors' money and got to stay neutral, I think the reality is brands influence consumer behaviors in what they do and what they talk about. Even the example that Sandeep gave about Fair and Lovely moving to Glow and Lovely, I think that was kind of levers taking a very convenient approach. So I think one is to recognize that fact. The second point I just want to make is that while it's easy to say no to pedophilia because it's obvious, so there's, I think issues like toxicity may not always have such black and white answers, right? So alcoholism, pedophilia, no-brainers, right? We'll all go with right things. But there are a lot of issues where there will be two sides, right? And a lot of brands will have to evaluate in the context of India. There are 1.4 billion Indians. For every 200 million that believe this is the right way, there's another 800 million thinking the other way. So I think that's an aspect that we have to consider. And just one point to what Madhavan said, and to an extent what Saurabh alluded to, I think the TRP is not dead. I mean, the reality is, yes, it's manipulable to some extent. And it's done largely by people from within the medium, right? So as news people, the news channels, they're doing it. It's not advertisers who like to corrupt the system. It's not agencies who like to corrupt the system. It's people within the media, right? So I think you recognize that. And for advertisers, it will always be a good yardstick. It's nice to go by one's qualitative judgment that, hey, I'm a sophisticated guy. I like CNN and BBC. But if Janta is watching Sudarshan TV, I better be alive to that fact, right? And I think these are real issues. So TRP will always have to be a benchmark. We'll have to clean it up. Now and then there'll always be. I mean, I used to head the MRUC that does the Indian Readership Survey, and ever so often it was mainstream publications, I should mention the Times of India, HT, Dainik Bhaskar, that were manipulating the system, right? So, it's the mediums, the media that manipulates because they want to get pecuniary benefit. It's not always advertisers and stuff. So I just want to make a couple of these points.
Yeah, I want to make a very quick intervention here, picking up from both what Saurabh and Lloyd said. First of all, Saurabh touched upon something very interesting about which I also mentioned as genres. If it isn't news, what is it? So I tweeted half in jest that Republic TV's competitors are reality shows like Big Boss and the World Wildlife Entertainment, the wrestling entertainment, WWE. And that's what I got a call from Quint saying, why don't you write on that at length? So basically, you have to, what Lloyd said right now is relevant in terms of, you cannot ignore the ratings, but you have to understand the relationship between the genre and the ratings. So somebody else mentioned Pan Masala. I think that's a very good example. But advertisers will have to do their homework and not buy the spiel given by new channels about who they are. You will say, okay, we'll advertise with you, but not as a news channel. Okay, as a wrestling channel, I'll go with you. You have to say that in your conversation in some form or the other, and not be just guided by the brand. Another point I wanted to make with reference to investors being very important is that please note, increasingly ESG investment is becoming important. The environmental, social, and governance-based investment. In fact, companies like ITC, who have excellently run, are being looked down upon by investors at some level, and be carefully because they are partly a tobacco company in spite of all that they have done. And therefore, it's important to keep that ESG kind of angle in mind also. And therefore, the point I wanted to amplify, although I mentioned this, in the watering hole, there are no silos to be managed anymore. So if you think you can manage an NGO, a journalist, and a student separately in order to maintain your brand, perish the thought, because they're going to be talking to each other. So I think it is important to keep that in mind, the genre as well as the brand.
Right.
Neeraj, I will, barge in. Okay. One is I totally agree with Lloyd, which he was mentioning. I wanted to say that too. You see this thing about inflating circulation,
Right.
inflating.
Somebody's trying to say something. I think.
Hello.
Yeah, carry on.
Inflating readership, inflating circulation. This has been an old game in the business. This so-called fake news and good news, bad news is again an old story. There were several jokes about Anandabazar Patrika, how when the Anandabazar Patrika starts printing, the bell in hell starts ringing and all the rest because it's only fiction. But Anandabazar Patrika went on surging in circulation and people advertised in it. So those are another part of the story which we are, I don't think we need to get, drawn into. Why the news genre itself has changed is because of the whole readership or viewership game. Rajdeep Sardesai had spoken, I've written about it in 2006, I remember, in a seminar in Bombay with Anuradha Senguta. She said that, we have to reinvent ourselves to compete with the Hindi channels and the entertainment channels. Because today, if I were to look at the pure play English channels who go by the BBC model, etc., I'm left with a minuscule population. So unless I reinvent, I'm not going to enlarge my net. And that's precisely what these people have done and gone to another extreme. And let me tell you, Madhavan sir, I have been in media buying. When these guys come to you, any of the ad agency, media agencies or anybody, we chat for the first 10 minutes about whether you like Arnab or you like XYZ or what's wrong with NDTV and vice versa. But finally, the decisions are always taken based on, what they promise to deliver or what's your feel of delivery. Yes. And finally, the point, I repeat myself, if I think that ambience is not good enough for me, I will never go for that particular medium. If that is, as you're saying, it's not suiting my brand personality or it's not having a positive rub-off on my brand, I will stay away from it. But this value judgment thing doesn't work for too long. Right now, Republic is the whipping boy because it suited everybody to pounce on them on this. But various other people also.
Let me make a very small. No, Chitra. Before that, just one small point. I know that as a political science student, I've studied something called the fact-value dichotomy. But I think advertisers and brand builders cannot ignore facts by calling it value. At some point, the value shows up in data, and you have to take a value judgment based on data, based on true value. So if pedophilia is wrong, and you will not say racism is wrong, right? So there are very clear data points that you need to study. Don't just brush everything as value judgment. There is enough data out there. Do some homework along with the TRP data on the kind of content being put out. Lots of facts, quotable quotes, hate speeches. Look what happened with the Richa Chadda case and the Payal Ghosh thing that went to the court. So these are data issues. You have to consider data, and I've explained that in my article in Quint. So it's not just about, it's not just subjective. It's very objective unless you want to be an ostrich.
All right. Thank you. I'll come to you. Chitra, I have a specific question to ask you, and I think, and then you can expand. And one specific question that I have to ask you and Sanjay Sharma, I'll come to you first, Chitra, is that, we are all, as marketers and as brand people, we are taking a very high moral ground here when we are saying that we will look at the toxicity of the channel and whatever. But the same brand managers, we don't hesitate in spending money on native advertising, where is that moral compass going there? If we are paying for a news to be published, and in context of that, how do you react to the entire debate that's going on now?
In fact, very interesting you asked that, because I was going to come to, ask that if you flip the debate, I mean, here we are debating about the carrier, but flip it. Nowadays, for instance, I mean, how many channels or how many newspapers or media publications would ban advertising on fairness screens or on surrogate advertising? I mean, I think one news channel did say that it would not advertise Fair and Lovely or Glow and Lovely or whatever. But, you know, can they afford? I mean, they may say that, oh, we don't, you know, that's the advertiser's viewpoint, but just flip it. And I remember in Business World when I was editing a case study, Meera Seth's case study, you know, Johnny Walker wanted to advertise. They had that line saying, keep walking, and that would go at the end of each page of the book. Now, the author of the case study book, she said, I will not allow this book to be published if she says, I have a problem with a liquor brand. And she would not allow, and Business World lost a lot of money, but we respected the author, you know. I mean, it was an impasse. I mean, we were struggling, but we allowed, I mean, we did not carry the Johnny Walker advertisement. So, I mean, you can flip the debate also, right? I mean, it is, so here, think of the circulation or the advertising manager in the media publication. He has business compulsions. He has to, I mean, he would like, morally, he may not like a advertisement, but he has to carry it because that pays for the salary of the people, right? I mean, in the thing. So I think brands also have to look at it in the same way, right? I mean, you know, you may take it off a certain channel, but that channel's wages or whatever depends on your advertisement. Coming to Lloyd's point about subscription not being enough, I think there is a change now after NTO, you know. I think the KPMG report pointed out that TV channels, I think TV channels revenues grew by 9% last year, and a lot of it was not advertising revenues but subscription revenues because of the new tariff order. So, and currently during the COVID period, Sun TV's subscription revenues have grown 18%. So you know, I mean, if the news channels want, if depending on the quality of content, they can grow subscription. I mean, digital media has shown us the way, you know, that you can still evolve a half and half subscription come ad, in which case you can be in a position to, you know, bypass TRPs, etc. So, I mean, I think it doesn't, I think you have to be a little more rational in your, you know, I mean, the carrier versus content debate. And the other point is brands also start, I mean, this particular controversy is also giving an opportunity to brands to develop, I mean, to pay more emphasis to their owned media. I don't think, I mean, the digital companies, say a Zomato or an Ola or an Uber can, I mean, they can really play with owned media, because every day, I mean, in the morning, I'm pinged with a notification by Ola or Uber or Zomato. So, I mean, I'm getting a default literally advertising from them. But a brick and mortar brand, maybe it could also develop an owned media, an app or something, you know. It hasn't really thought about its own media, and why should it focus so much on paid media, you know? So I think it's a time for them also to start thinking along these lines.
Fair. Sanjay.
Good point. Yeah.
Sanjay.
Hi. Okay. So I think a fair amount of it has already been said, and it's very interesting to hear everyone and the diverse points of view. But I think a few areas that I'd like to stress upon, even if they have been already spoken about, would be in the context of what exactly are we here to talk about today. We are here to talk about brands. We are here to talk about the content, that the carrier of the content in terms of specifically news channels and the way that they have progressed globally. I mean, there's a Fox News in the US, there's a Republic here in India, both, you know, carrying the same kind of ice. And what kind of repercussions does it have on brands and how they look at this content? I think this is a time when we as a whole community globally have evolved in the last 2 decades like we have never done before, thanks to technology and the way that it has impacted our lives. Year 2000 onwards, I would say, has been deeply, deeply driven by technology in whichever way, whether it is in terms of how we get our data, how we analyze our data, how we actually take decisions based on the data, and how dynamic the whole thing is in terms of, taking quick decisions about, where should we be, where are our consumers, how quickly the consumer loyalties have been moving, and so on and so forth. Having said that, looking at it from a brand point of view, I think as brand custodians, what do we try to do? We always try to create a personification of something which is very human-like. So a brand has characteristics, a brand has a personality that is defined, there's a moral compass, there are values, etc., etc. And if you feel that somewhere the brand, not just about what it talks about, but in the environment within which it's seen is not correct, you have the authority to pull it out. And that happens all the time. It is not that it is happening today. Even when we used to do media buying back as clients, we would take that decision based on data that was coming in every Thursday, Friday, and pull out from certain channels and go into certain channels where we are getting where we feel our consumers are. But having said that, there are brands like internationally, if you go back a couple of years, you saw what Nike did, where they actually took a stand to release a campaign which said that believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything, the Colin Kaepernick campaign. Correct. And that campaign was essentially, one of the largest brands in the world getting into what we know today as brand activism. Not that they had said anything against a particular media carrier, but it was just in a way of cultural context in which the whole world was moving. And they said that, look, we are, we personify a certain set of values, and this is what we stand for. Even if it means that we lose our core constituency, we are fine with it, but we would stick to what we stand for. Similarly, as a brand today, if I were to look at the news channels as a medium where we carry my advertising or my client's advertising, I would feel that, okay, before that, let me just come to an example. Just yesterday, I was talking to a celebrated actor for a particular brand endorsement, a query which came to me from Bombay. And before I actually spoke to that actor, I told the talent agency that, look, I don't think so-and-so would be interested because, he wouldn't do that kind of work. I know him. But however, since you're asking, I will put it across to him and check with him. And there you were. I called this actor and I said that, look, there's this company who wants you to be present at a certain event. And, it's not an endorsement. It's like a celebrity presence. Would you do it? He said, Sanjay, I'm shooting those days, I don't have those dates. But even if I had, I still wouldn't touch these categories. And these categories were liquor, tobacco, real estate, and so on and so forth. And I knew that exactly. And I had already communicated it to that team. So what I mean to say is that it might have meant big money for that celebrity, but if he has a certain set of values that he sticks to, he's okay with sacrificing that because it perhaps enhances his brand value a lot more for the future. So tomorrow when I go back to him with a certain kind of an endorsement, I would say, look, here's your kind of endorsement. Here's the money. Would you do it now? Similarly, a brand also needs to have that liberty to take that stand, irrespective. No one's telling Republic to change their content. That is the editorial decision of Republic. No one's telling Aaj Tak when it came in 1995, 97. That was the time when we really saw a shift in Hindi, in the kind of news viewership category in India. And that was a big shock for us because we were all coming from an era where we grew up, and I grew up in a very small town where newspapers would come in the evening twice a week because there were only flights from Calcutta to a place called Dibrugarh in Assam where, we would actually wait for the newspaper. So wherever you would hear something on the radio, my father, I remember, would say that, look, let's wait for the newspaper to come in the evening and then I will clarify and then we'll have a debate on this. So which means that you waited for newspapers to tell you the truth and then you had a discussion. Today, when you hear something in the news, you say, hey, listen, let me Google it and find out whether it's actually true or not. So look at how much has changed in the last 25, 30 years, that we actually don't believe the news from the people who are providing that news. And we actually have to cross-check it through other sources. So what
Sanjay, that's the point that I think Madhavan also made, that, yes. And Sandeep endorsed that, are they really news channel? They're actually
not really. But then I think yeah, if the point is about whether brands should dictate what news channels do, definitely not. But whether brands have a right to actually choose their ground, it's almost like you're driving down a highway, great opportunity to see. You have a hoarding of Swachh Bharat, but that's on top of a garbage bin. Now, what is the context there? The context is that there is a garbage bin which is all scattered with muck, and there is a Swachh Bharat campaign advertising there. It might have reached 100,000 people, but then is that the right medium to carry it? I would say still no, right?
Okay.
I would probably move it a kilometer away and put it up in a more cleaner surrounding where
Very well
the
put.
context of that message is better perceived by a viewer. So that's exactly where we are.
That's what I shared. There's a very interesting study, Sanjay. I will be offline and share that with you, which says that if it is contrasting, then the more engaged customers.
I heard that. Yes, yeah, I heard that.
So that's not something that we do not.
But that I think is also a point. We talk about artificial intelligence driving everything today, but there is more of artificial and less of intelligence. So I think it's if you're intelligent enough to go deeper into that, it would not be that case. But if you artificially just came over the data and say that, see, a lot of us have a lot of data, but we don't know how to use it, and we are not using it right. So I would still feel that a certain amount of research pointers that come out at times may not be 100% accurate and probably need another set of findings to verify what exactly was that. But point taken. I think it might work for a few areas, but I wouldn't say it would work everywhere.
So Jaya, Shekhar, and Rahul, please hold on. I'll get Divya then I'll come back to you. Divya, are you there? Divya, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I can jump in.
Yeah, so please jump in.
So I'm going to steer the debate to a little different direction. Is one, while news channels are no longer the only source of news that people seek from, like, for example, I have not watched TV, or I don't think anyone in my age group would have watched TV for news. Our sources are social media. You have your apps for that. You go to apps like InShorts, which are, again, shorter forms of news. So and what we've seen in media planning here is the percentage of investment in TV has decreased substantially. TV is still here to stay, but brands are now putting a larger portion than they used to for social media, right? So, and we've also seen suddenly there's polarization of thoughts that has never happened. People right now think just because 100,000 people agree with me, I'm correct. And similarly goes for the other statement. It's like a lawyer's debate happening every time. So brands should be there where they want to have an opinion. And we're talking to people who started with one channel, multi-channel to omni-channel, where brands want to have a consistent consumer experience across multi-channels. But I think the question we need to ask ourselves is, what does the end user know, or do they even trust your source anymore? Like, I would never trust Republic TV, I don't know how many of you will, for any kind of source. So while you might be advertising there and they have great TRPs and impressions, but they don't really mean anything in the real world, right? Like, even when they sell you digital ads and you see those ads while you're scrolling to the websites, are you even paying attention? Is it even your thing? So one, I would like to say, big brands have also stood up when Facebook boycott happened. You saw brands like Adidas, Honda, Ford, Hershey's, North Face, Jim Beam, Coca-Cola. They all boycotted Facebook. So something's definitely changing, and that might happen to a Republic TV and NDTV in the coming future. So I think these channels need to be a little more cognizant of that fact. And also, suddenly, like, I just saw news on YouTube where now they're saying that they will ban any video which has misinformation about COVID vaccines. So while the consumer might be waking up or not be waking up, it's a different conversation, but platforms are. So if digital platforms can change that, I think so can mass media. And again, no one, like, it's just a perception of Indian media as well. I know we have a lot of journalists. It's not the most reputed one. Like, if someone says, what is your most trusted source to the global world, they would point out to the BBCs of the world, Associated Press News bureaus, but no one would say, hey, NDTV gives me great news, which can be justified, right? Another thing I want to say is content is still the king. So we've seen new formats come up, especially in North America. We no longer just advertise on TV. We now do tie-ups with different podcasts. We go into Spotify, where people are actually listening in 4 to 5 hours to these podcasts every day while they work in the background. So the brand is present at the right medium. So I think that's what my 2 cents were. But I think it's interesting to see, and I would also have a recommendation for everyone. Please watch Social Dilemma on Netflix if you haven't. It'll also tell you how your data, people have this perception that data is being sold to other people. That's not the case. How they're actually tweaking consumer behavior with social media. So if I was a brand, I would invest in social media because I can kind of cause a person to change their behavior. If I say coffee is the best thing in the morning, it's going to change your perception, if not today, then 10 years from now. And think if you get 1% of the global audience, how big that could be. So
yeah, good. Yeah, Divya, thanks. But I think I find this crazy similarity between the points that you put across and Johan puts across, and I think that is actually, I think there is a very clear divide happening in MAD of of the millennials and the rest of us, because I think both of you are making the same point, and I think that's for a whole lot of us to sort of ponder upon. But thank you for that input. I come to Rahul now, who we've not talked of radio as a medium. Rahul, how do you react to this debate that's happening?
Giraj, frankly speaking, is quite an interesting thing. And as a radio brand, we don't actually get into much of the news zone or that kind of thing. Legally, also, we are not allowed to do radio. But few interesting thing what we are doing these days, and we are observing the listeners, what listeners expect from us.
Slightly louder, Rahul. Slightly louder.
I'm sorry. Am I better now?
Yeah, better. Yeah.
Rightly said that the print is the most creditable medium as far as the news is concerned, and luckily, radio is perceived as the number 2 creditable medium as far as any information is concerned. So on the radio, typical news or the debates are not allowed to us legally. But what we do take a point of view on any certain hot topic, but not a typical, not political topic, but very interesting topic, whichever is around. And that point of view from the citizens or the maybe editor are very well respected, and the people, listeners are expecting some interesting thing on that. And that's the thing what we have recently done some changes in our format, and it's picking up very well. And this is we have picked up in typical in the drive time, because my morning news is there, and news are you can't have now breaking news. News is available across platforms, so you need to have the right take. That's what we are working on. And that's what giving us a edge over the other medium. So radio is doing pretty reasonably well.
Yeah, but I think Rahul, that you mentioned this, because I think this is what Madhavan was trying to say also, that you don't fake it. I mean, you're not allowed legally, that's one thing, but you also don't come back and say as a radio channel, look, I'm giving you news. You very clearly say this is the RJ's opinion. The RJ stands up and owns up the opinion, and you may disagree, but there is that space that, okay, this is the RJ's opinion and so be it. So and I think that's, yeah. And that I think has far more acceptance than faking it or giving your opinion under the garb of news. Jaya, you've been quiet. Jaya, please unmute. Then I go to Shekhar.
I think that I will start with my very pet statement that I am an old timer. So I'm only going to talk about what I think is really true. My first point is that I see that we are all going towards republic and discussing more republic than the brand and the content and the carrier. And therefore, my take is in very simple terms, and I agree a lot with Sanjay, where a brand and a vehicle and the content has to be in sync with each other. That goes without saying, because a brand is not just a mere product. It's a personality that you really create and invest behind. And therefore, if it doesn't happen to be in sync with the content and the carrier, it is an absolute misfit. And chances are it is not going to be noticed. It will be probably noticed with the money that you may have. But I don't know how much the brand itself will say, which is why so much of time and energy is spent on creating the character of the brand by itself. Having said this, there are certain emotions that to my mind, will never change, whether it was 3 decades back or 3 decades later. And those emotions exist in human beings, one of them being sensationalism. What we are really talking about today with Republic is nothing but sensationalism. And when I was working, there were enough and more media or vehicle that existed, which created similar sensationalism, except that it may not have been politics, because politics has become a big thing in today's time and world. But sensationalism definitely existed, and the media, therefore the vehicle, had a certain perception in our mind, and we got back and sat back and said whether this particular product suits this media or not. I'm sure you guys know the kind of circulation that Manohar Kahaniya used to have. I don't know whether it exists anymore today. It doesn't. But when it existed, its readership and circulation was huge, and the content was, to my mind, pathetic. Okay, coming to television medium, again, to my mind and my opinion, I think the content, I'm using the name very loosely, but I can't help, and that's the way I feel. Ekta Kapoor's serials, most of them, 99.99%, are content-wise, to my mind, nothing great. Showing a mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, and the kind of projection of women that she has done, to my mind, in last 2 decades, it has actually changed a certain set of generation to think in a certain way. So those kind of vehicle, if it is available, we can very well say if a brand doesn't suit there, don't put it. But having said this, there are enough and more number of, again, even the brands that you look at, you categorize them. You sit back and say, okay, this is a cheap product, daily use product, and fast moving product, roz kharidna hai, or whatever. So whether there is a big problem in terms of its personality if I put it in sync with that. So many times we sit back and we do look at the content and also give in to the number that we are reaching. Now, if sensationalism is being exploited by an X medium, believe you me, numbers would increase, because that's an emotion which all of us have, and it gets exploited by medium. That's my take. I don't know whether you all will agree with that or not. Similarly, there are other emotions, happiness, sadness, envy, this, that. Those are going to exist. The yardsticks may change, but the emotions are not going to disappear. So today we are talking about toxic content. I don't think any of these are toxic content. Each of these, if you take Republic as a medium, it is only trying to survive in a market where somebody mentioned that news channels hardly have an existence. You know, they number so small that if you don't put your ads there, it's added to that product. So it's a survival that they are really looking at. If you forget about Republic, there are enough and more Hindi channels which give you content of nothing else but rape, murder, burning, killing. Now that's toxic to me. It's actually toxic.
Yeah, but you have similar number of vehicles, media vehicles in print also. You know, in the vernacular areas, you have a lot of vehicles. Like for example, Gujarat. You know, there are a lot, I don't want to name those vehicles, who believe in sensationalism and they sell very well. And as an advertiser, you can't sort of avoid them. You can't. Exactly. They get you the kind of reach. Yeah. Point well made, yeah, Jay. Okay, Shekhar. You got to unmute, Shekhar. You got to unmute. We can't hear you, Shekhar. We can't hear you, Shekhar. I think there's something wrong in your broadband connection. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Shekhar. So I think you need to figure that out. Ridhima, you want to say something? The way the discussion is going. Ridhima? Ridhima, will you unmute and say something? What is your take? Ridhima?
I'll just get back in a minute.
All right. Okay. Sanjeev, I think it's time. Anybody wants to make any other point? I think we've had very varied point. It's not conclusive. Chitra, you wanted to say something. Yeah, Chitra?
Yeah. Hi. One second. Okay, coming back to the main point about the media vehicle, I think what Naresh had said about, brands having to do focused research on reach, frequency, target group, etc., all those things. So, sometimes, sometimes, you do all that and yet the media vehicle might trip you up. So there's no predicting anything, I'm just putting aside. So I'll tell you I just wanted to share a small anecdote that somebody from an agency had once told me about this Nestle product for pregnant mothers. So this is a very old story. So they used to advertise on main channels and main everywhere and were getting no traction really. It was not converting to great sales or anything. They were not seeing that much impact on sales. So then they did a bit of a study on TG and what and all that, and what they found was that pregnant mothers actually didn't have time to read, or they were advised not to read, or something like that, So where they were putting the ad was not really being read by the target group. So then they twisted the media plan and tried to put it in a way where it would catch the attention. Now it backfired because it caught the attention of the government, and the government said this category should not be advertised at all, and they banned advertising on the whole category. So I'm just saying that the vehicle, sometimes the vehicle really doesn't matter for a brand. There are other factors at play also, so it's just one component, and you have to take a whole bit of everything holistically.
Yeah, but I think, Chitra, on that, what I would say is that while it may not matter as much, but if somewhere your message, your brand stance, and the thinking of your target audience, if they are all in sync, and the media vehicle caters to that thinking, then it accentuates the impact that the brand communication would have. Suddenly then you would see a better traction, a better engagement with the brand, because it's conducive. It's conducive for me to receive that kind of communication coming from a brand, because the tone has been set.
But how many of us, when the ad is coming on, how many of us really realize that, this is, the way you're flipping through, or you're like, and also between the news channels, actually, even coming back to the whole TRP debate, it's the news channels who made such a big hue and cry about the TRP rankings. Between the number 1 and between number 20th news channel, there's actually very little in terms of number of viewers, right? In absolute terms, there's very little. So, brands may as well put it on the number 20th versus this, So basically, I'm just saying that it's all we're making a mountain out of a molehill or something,
Perhaps. All right, Sanjeev, over to you. Like always, quickly, 2 minutes. Yeah, Jia wants to say something. Yeah, Jia.
I just want to say one thing. Sanjay mentioned about Swachh Bharat on top of Kachre Ka Dabba. There are 2 reactions that will happen there. One, you will say that what a place to advertise Swachh Bharat. And the other reaction is saying, oh, they have put it here, and therefore one thing will happen to whoever sees it is that you will notice, you will see it. Your job is done. You've seen the.
But my point was actually when I actually was driving through and I saw, and I think it was on social media as well a few years back, a very badly littered, dirty garbage bin on a main street, and there was this lovely Swachh Bharat and Mr. Modi standing and talking about how great our country is, but no one really bothered to clean that up while putting it up, and that was the case when I was driving from Delhi to Gurgaon almost every day, and I would see it in the same state for almost a couple of months. So that was my point, that the context of it, for me to drive down every morning after having a shower and bath, thinking about it, listening on the radio to Swachh Bharat ads, and then seeing a big hoarding there, and then seeing the garbage bin right under it, was really not the right context. And that's what I meant by, so you have a right to choose your own garbage.
I was only endorsing Giraj's point of putting an absolutely contrasting place. And therefore what happens?
Right. No, that happens. See, I would say that, even the way that Onida as a brand was created was completely contra, right, to the overall way in which one would think that a brand would be created, and it worked beautifully. So contra does work, but contra again in a context, and it's all a matter of how strategically you use it. Contra, just for the heck of it and allowing it to. So it's like so today news channels are like misguided missiles. So what they'll do is they'll pick up a tweet in the morning, and then. Make a 9 o'clock debate out of it. So if we say Twitter doesn't matter, if we say news channels don't matter, but look at the amplifying effect of a 2% Twitter readership moving on to a 3.5% news viewership, next day morning becoming a headline in a newspaper. So have you seen the way that the same news, which didn't mean anything to anyone, got amplified within a matter of 24 hours to become the headlines, which the whole country was reading and, could bring down a government somewhere. So that's my point, that we probably take, the wrong issues and blow them up disproportionately and make them news when they don't need to be.
Okay. Shekhar, is your connection working?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. All right, great.
Okay. Much of what I wanted to say was covered by Sanjay, Jaya, Madhavan. So these are points that I very much agree with. I endorse that. In addition, what I would say is that the vehicle is as important as the message. One might, there could be an argument on this, but I want to be seen in the right vehicle. If I am going to be, I just want to bring a very a crass example, if you may. I want to attend a party, and my vehicle breaks down, so I just take a garbage truck and go to the party and get down there in my tuxedo. Imagine this. This is exactly what is happening. I advertise in a vehicle which spews venom. I would be careful of my brand. I would be very, very careful about that. So I personally feel the vehicle is as important as my brand, as the message that I want to carry. That's my limited point.
Killer. That's a killer. Yeah, Sanjeev. The difficult job of concluding in 1 minute.
Yeah. I think it's been as a very, very nice discussion. I think there's been many shades of opinions around the same thing. Lloyd, of course, started off very well, and he mentioned about the brand managers being custodians for the shareholders, and they have a job to do, and they should be doing the job to the best of their abilities. But then in today's world, with so much of social media, they cannot just sort of divorce themselves from the realities that exist. They are answerable to their people also, that their actions also result in some perception being formed about their brand. So they have to sort of guard against that. Again, I think LK put it very nicely that brands have a job to do and they should do the job and leave the rest to some other people to do their jobs. Yeah. And the job that he mentioned was improve the community in their own way. Johan brought out a very fresh, interesting perspective that the actions that the media is doing now is going to change the perception of in the future. And Madhavan built upon it and said that, okay, today, you may support something, but if it turns out that you were actually supporters of something which is quite obnoxious a few years or a few time the line. He gave the example of IBM and the Nazis. Then what does the brand stand for? How does it affect the brand? So again, the discussion went into brand managers sticking to the job and looking at the work they have and achieving their objectives versus looking out in the future, see what is the larger societal changes that are happening, what is the larger impact that is happening. And I think there is a fair weight of consensus that the environment, like Sanjay said, in which the brand is there, does have an impact on the brand. And advertisers have always been cognizant, like Jay mentioned about, certain publications which were there, but brands made a conscious choice. I mean, they didn't just give up to the reach element that this particular media vehicle got, but they made a conscious choice to stay away or to participate in that particular media. So in fact, I mean, this choice, this sensitivity to the environment has always been there. But now in the context of, the changes that happen, media vehicles, let us not talk of the Indian ones, but say Facebook, there has been under pressure from advertisers to change men weights and become better. Then somebody mentioned about paid media. I think Chitra mentioned about paid media and versus their own media. Today brands also have the opportunity to create their own media and to manage their own media the way they want to. I think that's also a very, very interesting perspective and relevant. It's a lot of hard work, but yeah, it does, give you the certain amount of space which is your own to manage the way. Extremely interesting discussion, and I think thank you all. And I think this is a topic which every brand manager, every media buyer will sort of have to dwell upon every time he goes in and buys, media or spends some money on the media.
Okay,
So,
guys.
very good discussion.
Thank you very much. I have to leave. I just have to say thank you to everyone and a bye. And just before that, a small little mischievous line I often say to PR people who come to me and say, and I tell them, you don't get paid to tell me about your client. You get paid to tell your client about me. So it sounds like a Rajkumar dialogue from an old Bollywood movie, but it helps because what I'm trying to say is that you also sometimes need to not just listen, but talk to the person who gives you the check. And that's all I want to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In fact, another point I'd like to mention, picking up from what Sanjeev just mentioned about brands creating their own media environment. And that's true. In fact, in the last couple of years, I've had two large brands, one a beverage marketer who already has started creating its own website as a news channel, talking about not just the beverages that they make, but also the other good things that they do worldwide, whether it's recycling, environment issues, sustainability, education, which none of the medias pick up because it doesn't make great news. So they felt that we need to create a forum or a platform which is digital and which is our own website to become the harbinger of good news. Similarly, a large auto manufacturer, the largest in the country, in fact, came up with this whole proposal last year, and we were part of that whole setup of creating their own media network, where they said that we don't want to be actually sending out press releases to PR agencies and then leaving it to the journalists to pick up only a few paragraphs of what they feel is going to be news, but we want to tell people stories of what we are doing in the area of rehabilitating villages in Haryana and providing water supply to people or workers or whatever, sanitation, bringing in good practices from Japan into India, and what ground level work we are doing apart from manufacturing vehicles. So I think over a period of time, a lot of brands will try and create their own media environment, a window within which they will put up everything, and it's for the world to consume what they want to consume.
Fair. Sort of, how does it feel? I mean, you heard a lot of stories from a lot of practitioners on the other side. So it was your first MAD. How do you feel being on the platform?
Well, I think it was a great experience listening to everyone speak. I think what's really encouraging for me as a journalist is to see the concern about the type of content on the other side, especially on the side of advertisers and people who are dealing with these things. Because, see, at the end of the day, we all know it's the advertisements that pay our salaries and helps us produce the kind of content we want to do. So if there is this kind of concern amongst people who are involved in spending the kind of money that television journalism requires as advertising revenue, I think it's a great sign for people like me who are already in the profession, and for those who want to join the profession. Because when we go as practicing journalists to journalism schools, and they ask us these questions, that it only seems to be getting worse with the passing days. And what do you expect us to do? Are we going to have to shout and scream and prance around and create drama? And we have to tell them, no, it's, I'm sure there are a few players where you can find. But I think this kind of concern is a great relief for me. It's great encouragement that there is an extreme amount of consideration for the kind of content that's going to be played out, and how brands are going to associate themselves with that content. So that's very, very encouraging for me, and it was a great experience listening to everyone.
Fine. So I think Shekhar, who's got a bad connection, just put it on the chat that you actually spoke what he wanted to speak, what he written to speak. So that's Somebody connecting with you there. Naresh, you're there? Naresh, are you there?
Yes,
All
I
right.
am.
Yeah, so Naresh, your impressions. First Mad, your debut as a madam.
Very interesting. Very interesting to listen to so many points of views. Very interesting because I've been a part of this battle. This is one of our clients is in this whole battle. So we are part of this battle. Very interesting to hear. And I do really believe that brands will have to take a call on where they want to be seen and where they don't want to be seen. Context matters the most when you're building a brand.
Wonderful. So that's it. I think with that we conclude. Sandeep, Ridhima, final word from you. You'll have to unmute, Ridhima.
Yeah. I think it was very interesting to hear all these takes from both sides of the story, from journalists and from media people. And I think my generation was adequately represented by Rohan and Divya. And I totally agree by them. But I also feel that...
Gaurav, Ridhima just called you old. Huh? Okay. Don't miss. And she called a whole lot of us very old.
No, I'm talking about millennials. Factually speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, but I really believe that brands need to be careful about their vehicle, and also because what impact it leaves on the society, because if we are encouraging that sort of journalism, then we're in trouble.
Wow. So that's again millennial speaking. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shekhar. Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks,
and
Giraj.
thank you, Naresh
Thanks,
and Saurav for
thank
coming
you.
over. I think we will see you more often now, hopefully.
Yeah.
And thanks, Chitra. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
Sandeep.
Good
Good night.
Bye.
All
Okay.
the best.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
See you.
All the best.